There are moments when life pushes you so hard that your knees buckle beneath the weight. The silence of the night becomes heavy, and even your own breath feels like a battle. You've tried, failed, gotten back up only to be struck down again. In those moments, the question whispers, "Am I strong enough?" But strength is not found in perfection or the absence of hardship. Strength is forged in the fire of failure, in the quiet choice to rise again and again. Today I want to speak not to your fear, not to your fatigue, but to the undefeated part of you, the part that has survived every single bad day. This is not just a declaration, "I will not be defeated," is a sacred vow we make to the core of who we are. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is not the proof of your weakness, nor is it the universe punishing you for not being enough. Pain is a signal. It calls you not to retreat, but to pay attention. It's the friction that arises when your current self begins to outgrow its shell. We are conditioned from childhood to flee from pain, to treat it as a fire too hot to touch. But the truth is this: pain is a sacred fire, and in its heat, something old burns away something unnecessary, something limiting, and from its ashes, a new part of you is born. Those who rise above life's darkest moments are not those who never felt pain, they are the ones who listened to it. They sat with it long enough to understand what it demanded from them, because pain does not arrive randomly. It comes with purpose, as a force of awakening. It reveals what still hurts, what still fears, and what still doubts. It confronts your illusions and breaks the hollow structures you've leaned on for too long. There's a moment in every person's life when the pain becomes too loud to ignore. You lose someone you love. You fail at something you thought defined you. You are betrayed by someone you trusted, or abandoned when you needed someone most. In that moment, it feels like a door has slammed shut, like the light has disappeared. But what if that darkness is not an ending, but a cocoon? What if it is not a punishment, but a passage? Think of Edison, a man who allowed failure to become his education. He did not collapse under the weight of repeated defeat. He learned from it. Each misstep was not a denial of his destiny, but a redirection toward it. That is how one transforms pain into power, not by denying it, not by masking it, but by working with it, shaping it into something meaningful. Failure became his fuel, and pain became his teacher. We must reframe the narrative. Pain is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are breaking through. It is the tension at the edge of transformation, the exact moment when the old self begins to dissolve to make room for what is next. And it is not glamorous, it is messy, it is lonely, but it is necessary. You cannot become something greater without letting go of what you no longer need. Too many people avoid this process. They distract themselves, numb themselves, run away from the discomfort. But avoidance only delays the inevitable. What you resist persists. The pain you refuse to feel will rule you from the shadows. But when you turn toward it, when you say, "I am ready to face this," something extraordinary happens. Pain begins to unravel its wisdom. You start to see your scars not as ugly reminders, but as sacred marks of survival. Each one tells a story. Here is where I stood again. Here is where I didn't give up. Here is where I was made new. Those stories are not signs of your weakness. They are testaments to your strength. Real power does not come from comfort. It comes from the furnace of struggle, from choosing to rise when there is no applause, from showing up for yourself when no one else does, from looking your suffering in the eye and asking it, "What are you trying to teach me?" That is the path forward, not around pain, not beneath it, but through it. You don't need to be afraid of it anymore. Let it shape you. Let it deepen you. Let it make you wise. Because just beyond the edges of your pain lies your greatest transformation, not in spite of what you've endured, but because of it. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. There is a quiet war that wages within each of us, a conflict between who we are and what has happened to us. The world around us is eager to name us by our wounds, our failures, our moments of loss. It whispers that if we fall, then we must be failures. That if we are broken, then we must be unworthy. And slowly, without noticing, we begin to confuse our reflection with our circumstance. We begin to believe that we are the pain we endured, that we are the mistake we made, that we are the label someone else forced onto us. But this is the lie that steals not just our confidence, it steals our very sense of self. You are not what you've been through, you are not your darkest day, you are not the silence that followed the betrayal, the heartbreak, or the humiliation. Your identity is not bound to the worst moment in your story. That moment is part of your journey, yes, but it is not your name. The danger of circumstance is that it is so loud. It storms into our lives, disrupting our plans, shattering our peace, demanding all of our attention. And if we are not rooted in something deeper, we start to believe it is us. But identity is not loud. Identity is still. It waits in the quiet, in the center of the soul, untouched by the chaos above. Think of Nelson Mandela. For 27 years he lived behind bars, stripped of physical freedom, separated from family, surrounded by walls meant to erase him. But in all that time, he never surrendered who he was. He never accepted the title prisoner as his truth. His identity was not shaped by the cell, it was shaped by something internal, something sacred, and that internal anchor gave him the strength to outlast a system built to break him. When he emerged, he did not emerge bitter. He did not emerge as a victim. He emerged as a leader, because even when his body was caged, his mind and spirit remained untouched. This is the truth we must carry. You are not what you see in the mirror after a failure. You are not the resume that was rejected, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. You are something deeper, and that depth cannot be measured by temporary setbacks. We live in a culture that celebrates results, how much we earn, how many followers we have, how fast we succeed, and in that measurement, it's easy to lose sight of the soul. But you were not born for metrics. You were born for meaning. The valley you walk through now does not diminish your worth. If anything, it proves that your story is still unfolding. The valley is not a grave, it's a gateway. The darkness is not the end, it's the soil where strength is being grown. When you say, "I will not be defeated," you are not denying that the journey is hard. You are declaring that no external condition has the authority to define your inner truth. Your dignity, your value, your essence, these are not up for debate. No title, no insult, no loss can take them from you, and that is where your power lies, not in the avoidance of hardship, but in the refusal to be reduced by it. The world may try to rename you. Life may try to shrink you. But your identity is not given by circumstance, it is revealed by how you rise through it. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet are not those who had it easy. They are the ones who knew exactly what it felt like to be unseen, unloved, unheard, and they did not let it define them. They held their head high, even when everything around them told them to collapse, and in doing so, they became unshakable. You too have that power. The story you tell yourself about who you are, that is the foundation on which everything else rests. So speak it with conviction. I am not my mistakes. I am not my shame. I am not my pain. I am not defeated, because your true self is not a product of what has happened to you. It is the force within you that survives, adapts, grows, and rises no matter what. There is a quiet and often forgotten truth at the heart of human strength, the ability to choose. In a world that constantly shifts beneath our feet, where chaos and uncertainty seem inevitable, we search for stability. We cling to routines, to people, to ideas, but nothing offers a more reliable foundation than the power to choose our response to what life delivers. This truth does not shout, it does not force itself upon us. Yet once discovered, it becomes the anchor in every storm. We cannot always control the events that unfold in our lives. Accidents, betrayals, illnesses, losses, these often arrive without warning, without logic, without fairness. And in those moments we may feel powerless, like leaves tossed by winds too strong to resist. But even in the most violent storm, there remains one sanctuary untouched, the space within us, that decides how we will meet the moment. That space is sacred, that space is choice. Every day, whether in subtle ways or monumental ones, you are confronted with decisions that shape the direction of your life. Will you step into fear or lean into courage? Will you cling to resentment or extend forgiveness? Will you give in to despair or take one small step toward hope? These questions are not always loud. Sometimes they live in the quietest hours of the night, when no one is watching, when the only audience is your own soul. It is in these hidden moments that victory is born, because defeat does not happen when we fall. It happens when we stop choosing, when we surrender our agency and allow our circumstances to dictate our character. We give up the one thing that no one can ever take from us, the freedom to choose how we respond. Consider the story of Viktor Frankl, who endured the unimaginable horrors of the Holocaust. Stripped of his home, his family, his dignity, and even his name, he found himself in a place where most would surrender to despair. But within those prison walls, he discovered something extraordinary, that while others could control his surroundings, they could not control his spirit. They could not choose for him what kind of man he would be. That power remained his alone, and so he chose meaning, he chose compassion. He chose to hold onto a vision of life beyond the barbed wire. That same power lives within you. It may be buried beneath pain, beneath fear, beneath years of believing that you are helpless, but it is there, and it is waiting for the moment you remember who you truly are, not a victim of fate, but a co-creator of your experience. The smallest choices often carry the greatest weight. The decision to speak kindly to yourself after a failure, the decision to stand up for someone else when it's easier to stay silent, the decision to show up one more time when everything in you wants to quit. These are the choices that, over time, build resilience. They carve courage into the soul, and they become the architecture of a life that cannot be defeated. When you realize that choice is your ultimate power, you begin to see struggle differently. It is no longer just an obstacle, it becomes a mirror, reflecting your values, your strength, and your vision for the future. Struggle asks, who do you want to be in this moment, not someday, not after the pain ends, but right now, and the answer is always within you. There is no shame in falling. There is no shame in being tired or afraid or uncertain. But the question that matters most is, will you choose to stand back up? Will you choose to forgive when bitterness feels more justified? Will you choose to keep walking even when the road is dark? Because when you choose, truly choose with intention, with courage, with heart, you are already victorious. The world may not see it, there may be no applause, but inside a shift occurs, you reclaim your power, and in doing so, you light a path not only for yourself but for others, reminding them that they too are not powerless. You are not defined by what happens to you, you are defined by what you do with it, and in that doing, in that choosing you rise, not someday, not when it's easy, but now, in this moment, this is your power. Use it. We often look at those who rise from tragedy, those who walk through fire and somehow emerge standing, and we tell ourselves they must have been born different, that perhaps some people just carry a deeper well of strength, that their courage is in their blood. But that is not the truth. No one is born resilient. Resilience is not a gift. It is earned. It is built one broken moment at a time. It is forged in the days when getting out of bed feels like a mountain climb, when no one sees your effort, when no one claps for your survival, and yet you continue anyway. Resilience is not loud. It is not always fierce or visible. Sometimes it looks like tears in a car parked outside a job you hate but can't afford to leave. Sometimes it's choosing to go to therapy, to forgive someone who never said sorry, to keep parenting through exhaustion and heartbreak. It's small decisions that seem insignificant, but when added together, they become a testament not of perfection, but of persistence. Bethany Hamilton was 13 when her life changed. A shark tore through her future in seconds, severing not just an arm, but what seemed like her purpose, her joy, her identity. The ocean, once her sanctuary, had betrayed her, and yet, less than a month later, she returned to it. She faced the waves, the memory, the pain, not because she was fearless, but because her dream was louder than her fear. She didn't wait until the pain was gone. She moved with it, through it, beyond it. That is resilience, the choice to return not when things are safe, but when they are still terrifying, the refusal to be reduced by trauma, the radical belief that life can still hold beauty even after it has broken you. But resilience is not just found in extreme examples. It's in the single mother who works 2 jobs to keep food on the table. It's in the man who stays sober one more day. It's in the student who studies despite self-doubt, the widow who still plants flowers in spring, the heartbroken woman who loves again. Resilience is everywhere, quietly living in the ordinary people who refuse to give up. Yet what makes resilience so sacred is not only what it endures, but what it creates. Each time you choose to continue, you are shaping a part of yourself that cannot be taken. You are building muscle, not of the body, but of the spirit. You are creating a foundation that will carry you when everything else falls away. The world may never recognize this construction. There may be no trophies, no titles, no awards, but the strength you cultivate in the shadows is what will allow you to stand in the light. There will be moments when resilience feels impossible, when you question your ability to continue, when fear whispers that you are not strong enough, not brave enough, not worthy of the life you long for. In those moments, remember, resilience is not the absence of fear. It is not the absence of grief, pain, or exhaustion. It is the decision to hold something more valuable than fear to keep moving toward what matters, even if your steps are small and shaking. No one escapes life without scars, but those scars are not signs of failure. They are proof that you showed up, that you didn't let the fire consume you, that you walked through your hardest hours and lived to tell the story. And if you find yourself in the fire now, if the days are heavy and the road unclear, know that you are not weak for struggling. You are not broken for feeling tired. You are human, and being human means learning to stand up again and again, even when the weight is unbearable. Each rise strengthens you. Each time you bend without breaking, you are becoming something unshakable, something the world cannot label, cannot define, cannot defeat. You are not here to simply survive what life gives you. You are here to rise through it, to be shaped by it, and ultimately to become more of yourself because of it. That is the quiet miracle of resilience. Not that you were born strong, but that you chose over and over again to become strong. There are times in life when the weight of the present moment feels unbearable, when everything around you appears static, indifferent, or even hostile to your efforts. It is in those moments, more than any others, that vision becomes essential. Without it, we drift. Without it, we begin to confuse where we are with where we're meant to stay. But vision is the compass the soul uses to navigate chaos. It is the light that does not flicker when all other lights go out. People rarely give up because they are weak. They give up because they can no longer see what they're moving toward. They lose the thread that once tied their actions to a deeper meaning, and when that thread is lost, even the strongest become weary. What was once a noble struggle becomes just noise. What was once a sacrifice now feels like suffering. The fire dims not because it lacks oxygen, but because it forgets why it was lit in the first place. A vision must live deeper than hope. It must not depend on the evidence of success. Vision is the ability to hold an image of the future so clearly that it rearranges your entire relationship with the present. It tells you that this pain is not pointless, that this effort, however invisible, is building something real. A mother working 2 jobs, barely able to rest, endures not because the day is kind, but because her vision is fierce. She sees her child crossing a stage, diploma in hand, dignity intact. That vision becomes her strength. It pulls her through the exhaustion, through the loneliness, through the quiet nights when the world offers no applause. The young artist painting in a cold, crumbling room does not pick up the brush for profit. He paints because somewhere within, he sees his future self standing before a canvas that the world finally understands. He does not yet have recognition, but he holds a vision of what could be, and that is enough to begin. The dreamer, the builder, the believer, they live from the inside out. They are driven not by what they currently have, but by what they are called to create. Vision does not eliminate struggle. It simply reframes it. When you know what you're fighting for, pain becomes part of the process, not a reason to quit. Setbacks lose their power to shame you. Delays no longer define you. Because you are no longer walking blindly through the dark, you are walking with direction, and that makes all the difference. So often, people say, "I'm stuck," but rarely are they stuck physically. More often, they are stuck mentally, imprisoned by fear, doubt, and forgetfulness. They forget who they are, what they care about, and why they started. They lose sight of the possibility that once stirred their soul. And in the absence of that vision, they shrink, they settle. They surrender to the present as if it were the full story, never realizing that it is just a paragraph in the greater narrative of their life. What pulls you through the darkness is not certainty, it's clarity. Not clarity of the next 5 steps, but clarity of the final destination. You don't need to know every detail. You don't need to have the full plan. You need only to see something worth walking towards, something that sets your soul on fire. And then, even in the bleakest moment, you will not stop. Every great transformation in history, personal or collective, began with a vision. Not one rooted in current circumstances, but one that transcended them. It saw beyond oppression, beyond rejection, beyond failure. It looked into the storm and said, "This is not the end. This is preparation." Whatever you're facing right now, know this. It does not define you. It may shape you, it may challenge you, but it cannot contain the full magnitude of your becoming. Lift your eyes from what is broken and let yourself see again, not with fear, but with imagination. Imagine what you were made to do, what you were born to build, what kind of world, what kind of self, what kind of legacy could emerge if only you keep going. This moment is not the conclusion. It is a chapter, maybe even a turning point. And when your vision is clear, you realize, no matter how dark it gets, you will not stop here. Because what you see in your mind, in your spirit, is stronger than what you feel today. And that kind of vision, the kind that cannot be defeated, is the beginning of everything. Say it with me, not quietly, not timidly, but with fire. I will not be defeated. Not by fear, not by failure, not by what others say or by what I feel when I'm tired, broken, or unseen. Because I am not just surviving life, I am shaping it. And every time I rise stronger. This is the vow I live by. I will not be defeated, and neither will you.